Welcome to the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we celebrate the power, brilliance, and resilience of women everywhere. I'm your host, Shanasia Washington. Join us as we share inspiring stories and insights from extraordinary women who have found their voice and are making a difference. Together, we'll create a ripple effect, illuminating the path to visibility and empowerment. Let's break barriers, shatter ceilings, and lift each other up. In each episode, we dive deep into the journeys of women who have turned their challenges into triumphs and their dreams into reality. Whether you're looking for motivation, guidance, or a community that understands your journey, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and remember, let your voice shine. Let your voice shine. You have landed here at the Her Voice Shines podcast. I'm your fabulous host, Shanasia Washington, streaming from none other than Houston, Texas, baby, H-Town in the house. Listen, I am so happy to be back recording. This podcast reaches new heights every time we hit record, and today is no different. I am really excited to hear about this guest. I do not yap long. I let our guests come and give us the magic, which is telling us their name, where they're streaming from, and let's get the magic of the story. Without any further waiting time, here's my very beautiful guest for today.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I'm Juliana, and I am streaming from Cape Cod in Massachusetts, the little peninsula that is on the edge of Massachusetts. And I'm very excited to be here today. And thank you so much for having me here today. And do you want me to just talk about myself here, correct?
Come on, Juliana, and tell us. She's talking about, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the power introduction. That's how we kick off around here. And yeah, we want to know who you are, who's this beautiful lady in front of us. Just a little bit of insight into your story. And I'm going to be back to break it down a little bit further, but we want to know who you are.
Yeah. So I'm Juliana. I've formerly trained as a dietitian, more classically interested in being a runner, I've been running for a long time now, since like 2011, pretty much. And I'm also someone who has a lot of chronic illnesses. And recently, my story has been such where I've transitioned to working for myself, which has been very interesting, and also had a lot of health challenges. So I've been like high key involved in like advocating for myself in the medical centers that I'm like having to go to and things like that. And for people's context, I've been diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, Ehlers Danlos, irritable bowel disease with constipation. I've also undergone a colon resection in 2023, which was a very interesting thing. And on top of all of that, I've also recently taken up ultramarathon running, which I won my first 50K, which is about 31 and a half miles of running in about 5 hours when I did that in the spring. And then did a 50-mile attempt in the fall, which did not go as planned, but that's okay. It's all good. But I'm just kind of out here in this world to, I guess, be more myself every day. That's one of my big goals. And hopefully encourage other people to talk out about things that are like a little bit more taboo, like your health problems, both physical and mental. And also just being honest about like where you are in the world, because I just feel like, one, the more I'm honest with myself and the more I am myself, the more comfortable I am in my body and in the world, and the easier, generally speaking, like things are never like relatively, that things get a little bit easier because you're not lying to yourself and you're not also fighting that barrier as well too. And two, to just like help other people see that. And I hope that other people can see that, like, through me being myself, that other people can also be themselves too. So that has kind of manifested in my presence on social media and also my podcast / YouTube channel that I've started that's called RUNNAH, RUNNAH, which is how you pronounce it in Massachusetts, because that's where I'm from. And just sharing honest and open stories of people who are involved with the running community, like people who are injured, people who work behind the scenes. It's not, very rarely do I've had one Olympian on, but it's all like regular people and just sharing relatable stories. And again, coming back to the general sentiment that you should be yourself, and also you should talk about things that maybe other people feel uncomfortable talking about. So that way we can all just be more comfortable in our own skin. And that's kind of it. I have a dog named Myrtle too. She's a pit bull.
Oh, by the way, I got a dog too. Now, come on, Rhonda, that's big Massachusetts energy. I like the way you.
Oh yeah.
I pick up some Massachusetts vibe. I heard all of that in the introduction. So yeah, I like that you named that RUNNAH. But you said 31 hours, 31 miles in 5 hours. Is that what you said?
Yeah, about like 31 and a half, give or take.
And look, you're saying it so comfortably. Girl, they would probably have to roll me out on the street. Julia, they would have to roll me out on the stretcher somewhere if I attempted to run 30. I'm just saying. I kind of got a little, when you said it, I probably missed about, a line or two. I said, did she say 31? I said, trying to do 31 in 5 hours.
Yeah. It's, I mean, when you get up to the level like of ultramarathon running, which technically is anything that's over the marathon distance, which is 26.2 miles. So anything over 26.2 is technically an ultramarathon. You reach a certain like flavor of delusion that very specific to that like niche of the running community. So like you have to be a certain flavor of Delulu to like actually even want to be out there. And that's the flavor that I like.
I don't know if you ever heard of David Goggin.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty sure in your world, I know you heard of him. But anyway, I read one of his books a couple of years ago, but I read another one of them, but they're kind of somewhat related, maybe early or late last year. And then you know what? Just when I think I'm tough, I'm like, you really ain't that tough because you read something. I mean, that guy, because he does a lot of that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he does a lot of that massive run. I think I was reading something he did. I don't know if it was something I think even greater than 31, and he had like a knee injury, and he was like the heaviest he had ever been, and this guy like literally smashed it. So people who I'm tall, so I was like, Lord, why am I tall? I ain't got nothing athletic about me. But I've been mildly obsessed with many athletes because like they have this ability to push themselves beyond what the norms of people would see as normal, if that makes sense. Like I talk about Kobe Bryant a lot. He's hanging up here in my corner here because he was that master Mamba mentality. And I talk about it often because he had this ability, like, well, he would literally be in the gym shooting. They leave practice. People have long gone home, had dinner, and they're sleeping, and they're coming back at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's still there. He never left. You understand?
Yeah.
Like, it's like that mojo. I'm like, I'm already cheering for you because that alone, I'm like, this girl a rock star. Because 31, look, I don't know. I might not ever run.
It's not for everyone, but yeah, it is. It's interesting too, because for me, like running is more of a release than it is anything else, because like, yeah, it's painful to like run that far. Your body like wants to stop. It's your brain that keeps you in the game. Which isn't even hard, as you already know. Like I'm sure building up that mental strength is so much harder than building up the physical strength and just being able to be out there. But like I mentioned, I have so many chronic illnesses that like 90% of the time I'm in less pain running than I am doing like other things. So it's just it's relative to a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different reasons that people are outside running. And sometimes it's to escape like mental pain, sometimes to escape physical pain, sometimes it's just to like enjoy some fresh air, and whatever your reason is to be out there is great. And you don't have to be out there for 31 miles. It's not required, but you can still go outside and like get some fresh air. That's always a nice
I mean, I had to highlight it because it really is that mental capacity to be able to do that. And I talk about the power of mind, just the mindset, but then the actual like neurological side behind it, because I love neurology. That's one of the things. I thought I was going to be a neurologist at one point. Clearly, I'm not. So you got me today.
You tried. We give you credit for that.
Give me a lot of credit for it, but I still never lost my love for it. And it's, man, I'm telling you guys, the power of the mind is really, really something. Because I'm telling you, even for me sitting here doing this thing and who I was just about 5 years ago, and I talked about a lot during these segments, the power of the mindset that I was going to do something else, but nothing around me looked like it, Juliana. Nothing around me, my situation, nothing painted the picture for that particular life that I was seeing. And that really came down to a ruthless mindset. It did.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing around me that signals that what you or manifest or think to happen could actually happen. And I didn't do anything but cycle through and hunker down in this mind to get it there. I want to go here because you talked about all those illnesses, and I tell my guests, they be looking so cute. And I'm like, you don't look like what you've been through. You don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a lot of the times I get, you're too young for this. And I say, agreed, let's get rid of it, I have ankylosing spondylitis, which pretty much is like fancy arthritis, where eventually my spine will fuse together and I get to be the hunchback of Notre Dame. So I am looking for a church to haunt eventually. And Ehlers Danlos means that my tendons are like more stretchy than normal. Like I can kind of like do a bunch of like weird things with my arms and legs and stuff. I'm more stretchy than like your average human, which applies to like joints and like muscle like connections and things like that too, but it also applies to like internal organs. So like my blood vessels are a little bit more lax, and like my colon is a little bit more lax. I like to describe my colon as a limp sock, because it just doesn't know what to do with itself, and it's got a really hard time operating. But those are things that like I've grown up with, and recently, like the Ehlers Danlos, I've only learned in the last 6 months that I have like what to name some of the things that I've been dealing with. The ankylosing spondylitis, I've had that for years. Same with the irritable bowel disease, but it's definitely been interesting because a lot of these conditions are not like easily treated, and a lot of it is like lifestyle modifications and like doing like a lot of like mental coping mechanisms, because like sometimes you just can't escape a lot of these things whether you like it or not, because there's just not a treatment for it, or the treatment for it is like way riskier than like you really want to take on in the moment. Or there's just a lot of side effects from it. Like steroids have so many side effects, and they're constantly trying to like give you steroids if you have any kind of like autoimmune condition, which is not really a great option, because there's so many side effects with steroids that you don't want to account for if you don't have to. They have their time and their place, but like a constant use of them can degrade your bones and also just like affect your body in a lot of other weird ways. But definitely I'm not glad to have the conditions, but I'm glad that I'm like speaking out about them, just because, like I mentioned earlier, like there's something that's taboo. People don't want to talk about their health. And for me, like that, especially having some conditions that are like not super common, EDS or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is considered like a rare disease. Ankylosing spondylitis is like semi-rare. So there's a small percentage of people who have these conditions. And if you feel isolated by like medical professionals who don't know what they're doing, like other people who are like, you're making this up, whatever, it can really affect your physical health and your mental health. So being able to connect with people who have that, like the same conditions, and like being able to brainstorm things with them, or even just like check in and be like, hey, does this happen to you? This weird thing's been happening to me. And to have people be like, yes, agreed, Juliana, like that is happening to us too. You're not imagining it. I'm like, great. Cool. Just like having that level of support is really great. And like, I would love to provide that. And I try to provide that to anyone else who feels like they're like alone or floundering, or like they just, they're like, I'm the only one. Like, cause isolation is the thing that's going to kill you. Feeling like isolated and desperate, that's like the killer. We don't want that.
We do, and I'm happy you are too. And I know this is not the same, but my grandmother, of course, she's ill, but she has rheumatoid arthritis.
It's so bad.
Oh man! And when I tell you, you hear arthritis. Well, at least let me just make this personal. I would hear it, of course, and when I was like young, you just kind of hear this just air kind of thing. But then when you're with it, you have to face it, and you see somebody literally, their health is changing drastically when this thing has gotten to a certain stage. I mean, it's mind blowing. And of course, like with the steroids, that's one of the things that they always, these steroid injections to help, that is one of the proposed treatments. But to see like some days that she literally just cannot move, and she's like, I am just that stiff, and the tightness of it, it's really something that I've been on a learning journey with. I would say pretty closely for about the last 18 to 24 months, because it's really progressed at the stage of life. So that's why I say I'm so happy that you talk about that in the open space, because, not only for the people like you that are living it, but for the people like me who are, caretakers or loving on, people that have, so that we have a better insight into your daily struggles and even triumphs that can really, really help us. Now, I want to ask you this, because you have gone through these things, and you said that the hardest part of your journey was when something that you trusted, which was your body, it became what you would say to be unreliable. Tell me what was the hardest thing you had to confront in that moment?
I think it's just the fact that you can't escape. Like, you just can't escape your body. Like, I mean, you can, like, murdering yourself is an option, which I would prefer not to do. So you have to like make peace with, if you would like to continue on in the world, which I would like to, you have to make peace with the fact that like, this is going to suck. Like, just kind of being okay with not being okay, which is really freaking hard. Like, acceptance is one of the hardest skills I've worked on in my time in therapy. And like, I actually have a therapist appointment this afternoon too. I see my therapist, Anne, at least once a month. And I have for 8.5 years now. And I continue until she passes away. She is indebted to me. So that is what it is. And just, physically, like mentally accepting that whatever physical condition you're in, you have to just kind of deal with, and just being able to find positive things within that like negative space that your body has kind of created, where you're like, something happens that you're just like, holy crap, I did not anticipate that happening. And this is really terrible for either pain reasons, mental, whatever the reasons are. And just being able to be like, okay, I can't, like, these are the things I have control over. These are the things that I don't have control over. Taking control of the things you have control over, and then trying to find joy in whatever it is. Because I have a lot of people who are like, Juliana, like, I'm just a goofy, silly, like dumb, like in a positive way, human anyway. Like, I'm just a goofball. This is my baseline human existence. And I love to laugh. But there comes a time when like you're suffering, and you can either choose to like you process your feelings and you process them through to the point where you're like, okay, like I processed that, that's good. Like the general processing is out of my system, you know? Then you get to choose what your attitude is past then. You can choose to like wallow in the sadness and in the sorrow and all those things, and like really prolong that period that you're stuck in, that like sadness / distrust period. Or you can choose to like celebrate the small things that are happening around you that like are positive things, which is the truth. When I have the ability to do so in the mental capacity, you know, I choose to do that, because the thing that sucks that you like can't change is going to suck and not change regardless. Like, it's going to be there. You just have to live with it. But you can change your attitude around it. And that's kind of my whole thing, is like, I would like to just like make sure my attitude, like, things can suck and I can feel that suck and I can really like process that suck. But once that suck is processed, we need to like change the environment to be a more positive one around what's happening. That's
Man, I love that, finding joy in it, because you're right, you know, and many of my guests, and let me just tell you, Julian, I've had some doozy of stories on this podcast. I really have. I am truly blessed. I mean, it's a podcast, but it's literally much more than that for me, because people literally come here and they tell me a lot of things, but people say, I've never said that before out loud, let alone on the podcast. And I'm always so blessed and honored that they allow me that intimate time with them. But it also too has taught me to walk this world a little bit differently, because when you guys come and tell me these things, there's like, well, obviously I still get surprises, but there's not too much I'm caught off guard with. I'm able to extend love and care and really experience true joy with people who have had to forge that for themselves. And in the season in my life, I'm like, I got so many competing priorities. Like, what else do y'all want me to do? I have to, I really truly have to center and find that joy and say, you know what? It sucks that all this stuff is coming. It sucks that you wake up and you don't feel good, but you still have to go and you still have to do. But they're recentering and says, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna feel the pain because I'm human. I have emotion, but let me process it and move on and center and get that joy. So I'm so happy that was a part of that segment. Now, I want your response to this, because this probably can help me, because lots of times you have had to kind of rebuild momentum because you're sick. Are you right? Because I struggle with this, because I'm like, oh my God, am I being productive? You know how people do. So, So you've had to build momentum more than once, and that's one of the things I took from reading through your information. So, how do you find productivity when doing more is not an option? Because sometimes, you know what I mean? It's like a power play in my head. I'm like, well, I really can't do more, but I still want to be productive. Tell me about the dynamic and how do you still define productivity when I probably can't do more?
Yeah, I think it's like redefining productivity. I'm actually like in the last, like we hit this at like the exact right time for this question. I I hurt my foot like a week and a half ago, and because of like the Ehlers Danlos, I have really like poor like healing abilities, which is a challenge that comes along with this. So this is going to be a hot second, and so I haven't been running, and just like dealing with that and feeling like unproductive and feeling like so much more of my time is taken up by like my mental worrying and like more appointments and things like that. I already go to enough I have so many medical appointments that I go to. I calculated how many medical appointments I went to in the last 7 months, and it was 101, and that's too many. So it just, I think reformatting your brain to like accept that productivity can come in a lot of different forms. And I found that having external, like internal validation, but also external like check-ins is a good thing for me when and like having like versions of people in my life that mean a lot to me, like that live in the back of my head, where I'm like, I have my best running friend, Ben, and then one of my other best friends, Nicole. Nicole is a mental performance coach, and Ben is also an ultramarathon runner. And so they kind of both live in the back of my head of being like, Juliana, don't negative self-talk. And Ben being like, be realistic, Juliana. We're in this for the long run, you know? And just kind of, I feel like being part of the ultra running community has given me a lot more skills in that too, because when you reach like the ultra distances, a lot of the times the only goal is to reach the finish. And you are well aware, like when you sign up for a 100-mile race, you know it's going to suck at some point. Maybe the whole time. Maybe it only sucks for a mile. Maybe it sucks for 50 miles. Like you're going to hit multiple different walls that you're going to have to come across. And you're going to have to manage that moment, which is one of my little mantras that I like to use, is just like manage the moment. That's as far as you could just think into the moment and manage that moment. But you're kind of with an ultramarathon, you're thinking like 100 miles out. So you have to think like, how can I make it so me starting here, I can reach that distance? And like, I was even thinking about my like 2026 goals, and with my 50-mile attempt that I just did, the general sentiment was that I probably should have walked the first lap of this course that was like 13 miles, because that was like the smart thing to do, because it was 5 a.m. in the pitch black and there were a lot of leaves, and it would have been a much smarter idea to walk it with my trekking poles. And that's kind of my goal to go into 2026, like go into it as you should have gone into your 50-miler, which means like start slow, walk the first lap, pick it up from there and finish strong, because you have to really be thinking further out. And just like having like my friends in the back of my head, external, like being able to talk to them, and also just like having that mindset of like, I'm thinking this far out, like this is my goal. And I understand that I'm going to hit roadblocks along the way, but I know that I can manage those moments and overcome those roadblocks because I've built up the skills over time.
Mm-hmm. So you better hear my voice. No negative self-talk, okay? So it's 23 minutes and about 27 seconds. So when you go back and play this, go back to this timestamp and hear
no negative self-talk.
No negative self-talk.
Yeah, agreed.
It got to go out the window, Juliana. You have overcome too much, and guess what? Life is still gonna life, and that's why I tell I'm like, even when you leave today, tomorrow, you don't know what's up the road ahead. I said, why not continuously build the fortitude now? Why not continuously keep going? Because you don't know what's up ahead. We hope that it gets better, but we know that life is life.
Oh, definitely.
So that's why it's so important that in the moment, Sinead gets up like, okay, yeah, it's some lions, tigers, and bears. I got to fight, girl, but you're still worthy. You still okay. You still have come a long way. You still have a lot of fight to give. You still, and it's a constant thing, because life will try to, in situations, will really, really try and suck you in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you see those people around you all the time who just like life has just like consumed them in a negative way, and they are just letting something else like rule their days and their brain, and you feel bad. You see them and you're like, oh, I wish you had some like self-advocacy skills that were a little bit better. Like, can we Like, and you try to help them, and sometimes it gets somewhere and sometimes it doesn't. And like, you know, even the people like yourself and like myself who have like those skills, some of those skills built in, sometimes it's just hard. Sometimes you're in like a mental spot where like advocating for yourself and like what you want is just like really challenging because of everything else that's going on around you. And it's like being able to accept that you can't do it in that moment too is really hard too. Like quitting is so much harder than keeping going. That like, and responsibly quitting, being like, this is it, like I'm done, and not like pushing yourself to the brink of destruction that's a skill right there. And it's a skill that I don't feel like many people have really perfected. And I know I definitely haven't yet.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a work in progress because like here's like, you know, in speaking to so many different types of women, when I say all kinds of politicians and reality stars, I spoke to a lot of different type of people. And that is the differentiator, because I don't care about your title. I don't care about whatever it is that you're doing, because it's going to have to be that mental capacity that says that you can do the thing. And that's really what separates kind of the people that live a certain kind of life and don't. It's not all this other stuff that people think that it is.
Yeah.
Because the reality of it is, I mean, we all have our own innate gifts and own innate talents and things of that sort. So it's not most of the time a talent piece. I know some very talented people that are stuck.
Yep.
It's not a talent piece. And that's what I tell many of my clients and people. I said, you know what? You got to build an internal toolkit that says it doesn't matter what I'm doing, whether that's being a mama, battling a disease, going for a college degree, going for a promotion, that suits you up for the thing. Because the thing itself is going to change. It's life.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to change. So you have to have something internal that's going to allow you to navigate those particular arenas, and you touched on it, and that is the piece that sets you apart, Juliana. Because, like I said, we didn't talk to the titles. I don't care about the title. I really don't, because I'm literally looking at, you know, that internal makeup and really how you navigate and processing these things. And then the other part of it, I tell you that, and I said it several times in these last recording sessions, that this podcast is literally reciprocal for me. I never leave not knowing something new. I'm literally always in that continual learning mindset. That is another piece of it. Because if you're only operating in the tools that you know for survival, for confidence, and it ain't helping you, baby, guess what? It's time to get some new tools. It's time to get some new resources. It's time to get some new friends. So that constant learning model is also going to be the differentiator that says, I'm not going to continue to let life attack me. Because if you could have gotten out the cycle of that, you would have long gone, did it a long time ago. But obviously you don't have enough, so you have to choose to continue going. I'm just saying. All right, I'm move on so we can I want to ask you this, because this is very also something that came up, because you said a pivotal learning moment for you would be listening more.
Yeah.
Not realizing pushing harder wasn't it, but listening more. I know you hear me yap, but if you met me in person in some situations, people are like, do you talk? I'm like, well, I'm just kind of like in a new role in life now, but I'm kind of like the girl from the back of the room who always just listen.
Yeah,
I'm an active listener. I've been most of my life. And to be honest, in 90% of the situations, I'm more comfortable being the listener.
Oh, yeah. Same.
So tell me about that role of active listening, and really how that became a true, like, bling. It's not me going harder. I really have to listen. Walk us through that process and how you arrived there.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm remembering correctly, I read a book in college, which the name of the book is escaping me. It was like How to Listen or something, whatever, when I was learning to like do counseling as a dietitian. And it just like really resonated with me. And I really took that to heart, because I wanted to make sure that like anyone I was seeing felt like seen and accepted. And I mean, that's just kind of my general vibe anyway. And I think like the biggest thing that I've realized with listening is that, one, I listen more than the average elephant, I would say, to what people are actually saying, and like actively like try to like actively listen, like repeat back to them what they're saying in what I'm saying, so that way they know that I'm doing it. And just like how few other people are actually listening to what other people are saying. I'm that person who, like, whether I like it or not, have a face that people like to talk to, and also I have like this just like innate empathy within my soul where if someone has something to say, I would like to make sure they feel heard and validated, regardless of like what my situation is that's going on. I want to make sure that like they feel like they are validated, because that's something I never had growing up. My family's not such where like they don't listen to save their lives. Like it's not something that's happening. So I have realized that like it's something that people are really drawn to, and it's something that's not super common, both in my own lived experiences where I'm the person being listened to by someone else and I can actively feel like their attention, like, woo, they're not listening anymore after like 10 seconds. Or I'm the one doing the listening and the person I'm talking to feels even more engaged. And whether I like it or not, they end up like speaking to me for longer. And I've turned that skill into something that I've like not perfected, but like worked on via like podcasting, because I've been podcasting in some format now for about like 7 or 8 years and doing interviews and things like that. So being able to facilitate that, and pretty much everyone I usually talk to is like, that was so easy. What a nice time that was. Because I really go out of my way to make sure that they feel like they're being listened to, and to just make sure they feel seen, which I think is really important. And again, something that I don't think is super common when it comes to like the majority of humans that are out there. And I know you can probably speak to that a lot more too, because you do so many interviews and things like that.
Girl, Juliana, one thing you said, I almost stopped the chair. But I got a face that people just want to talk to me, whether I agree or disagree, and it's this innate empathy. I be wanting to rip the face off because I'm like, I don't really want to know, how did we get here? I'm in a grocery store. Man that pulled out his phone, showing me his grandkids. I'm like, how did we get? I'm scratching my head saying, how did we get? Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been in a lot of those situations where someone's like, and like I'm 10, 20, 30 minutes later and they're telling me like their deepest, darkest secret. I'm like, what happens? I don't understand what's going on here. Like, where are we friends now? I don't know you.
Very awkward times, but when people find it, they latch on to it. And it is a very rare thing to have, especially in today's world where a lot of people are desensitized, because we have a lot of social media and the human connection is, just not as strong as it had been historically because of that. But I am telling you for sure that it's a skill that I was like, man, it's kind of a blessing. It's a little bit of a curse too. Because
I'm gonna fully agree with that statement right there.
Because everybody doesn't feel like, but I personally do. And when I'm like, I don't even understand. I mean, just the most random things. I can be out in the store and I'm just walking. They're like, well, what time does this open? I'm like, I don't know. I don't work. Oh, we just assumed you were.
Yeah, I'm also, yes, you and I are both that like de facto, we think you're a store employee because you just have that affect about you and you have a face that I can talk to. It's like, no, I do not work at this Costco. I don't think so. You can go get a free sample somewhere else. Thank you so much for being here today.
And people are really truly longing for that. And of course, I'm just out in the world, but even here in this podcast, like there are some women that literally just come here and just breathe. And they haven't done that in just such a long time because they don't have the space to actually do that. And the fact that, I mean, I know that you have it, of course, use it wisely because it can drain you. It can be on the draining side of it because people know that you're coming in, unbiased, that you're actually going to listen, there's no judgment. And those spaces are few to none in many people's reality. And that's go ahead.
It's kind of sad to me too, because like my friend circle, I've really like curated to be like, not in like a weird way, but like the people, like I stand by like calls to like whatever your energy is, you're probably going to attract similar energy. So my friends are like similar to me in that way. Where like it's a safe, we all like really like listen to each other and like it's a safe space to just like be yourself and like have like honest and like sometimes like quirky, weird opinions about things, which is kind of fun. And I have that space, but I know from my own lived experience and like how I got to this space that that's a very rare thing to have like more than one person that you can just go to who will like actively listen to what you are saying and like take it in and maybe even like follow up with you later about something that you said. Like, you never know, or like provide you with some kind of resource, because especially as someone who's like navigated the healthcare system pretty extensively, one of the, like, my number one like things that I look for in a healthcare provider, whether it's like a physical therapist, an acupuncturist, a doctor, a PA, whatever, a pharmacist, is someone who will listen to me. Because if you can get someone who will listen to you, that's literally 50% of the battle right there when it comes to getting the correct care that you need. And that also applies to like day-to-day life too, and like friendships, family members, things like that. If we all just listened to each other, I'm sure like half the fights that happen at Christmas and the holidays would never even happen. But like, who knows how to listen to each other, especially when it's like great granddad saying something a little bit off color, you know? So
well, yeah, for sure. And I've known, because speaking of, like, my grandparents are 77 and 81, and they're colorful characters, girl. They just color.
Oh, like, I believe that.
Well, you know that they some colorful characters. I say, okay, y'all.
I used to work in nursing home care, and I worked with like people with dementia, and like, my God, these people were hilarious. The things that have come out of their mouths, I was like, yeah, sure. Sometimes they remember what they said, and sometimes they didn't, and it was just like a wild roller coaster ride, 24/7.
Yeah, and a lot of my friends, they always, you know, their parents like a little bit younger, and like these are my grandparents, so they always ask me about like being there, like, how do you get the patients to do that? And like, it just seems like, you know, it's so overwhelming. I'm like, no, I just truly listen to them, and the parts that I can actually do and act in, I do, and the other part, just the 1940s kids talking, it just has to be.
You just kind of be like,
Yeah, they're part of their upbringing, they're part of their life, and I'm okay with that. But I think for me, where the challenge for me was that, because not only, you know, am I very passionate about this, like I say, I'm a reader. I've always been like an active learner. Like, I like to read books. So sometimes that space or whatever of growth, it's hard to find somebody else that's like, you know, can talk about those growth type things, right? So that's been my challenge, right? Because I'm not going to just stay stagnant. I'm always like learning new things, like quirky knowledge and stuff of that. So in this part of my life, you know, there's been those people that can actively listen to certain things, but then kind of when I go a little bit off the path, a little bit, you know, beyond, that's where the challenge becomes. And to be honest, this podcast has been a good place for it, because I'm like, where the heck else am I going to talk about?
Yeah. I fully agree. It's hard to find your people, but once you find your people, like, and you find like a place to just like, and I'm also a person too who, like, I'm not in a committed relationship or anything, not by like any, I'm monogamous, but like, I'm not dating anyone or married to anyone. But I'm of the mindset, regardless, like, not like one person can't fulfill all your needs. So having like people who, like, I have like multiple best friends. Like, I have Ben, who's like my running best friend. I have Nicole, who like is my like girlfriend, who's my like running best friend. And so my best friend. And then I have Jeff, who's like my best friend, who we've been friends for years. And Jeff and I are like so freaking honest with each other. It's not okay sometimes. But like, I know which silo, like,
you need one that's borderline honest though, but go ahead, like with the borderline.
Yeah, no, Jeff and I are like borderline not okay. Like, we are just like sharing everything. But it's a good safe space to go to. Like, I know that if I'm having a really high moment or a really low moment or somewhere in between, Jeff is there to listen, and there's no judgment. And like, they know that it's the same way for me. So whatever is happening, we both know that we have like this safe, like sacred space in each other, that like, there's just, it's the no judgment zone. Here we are. And we're both like very like blunt, kind of just like figuring out problems by just calmly talking about them. People anyway will be like, hey, what are you doing? I don't like that. And they'll be like, okay, that's great. What's the compromise? And then we've never fought, because we just both are very just like blunt people, that it's just like, we just talk about whatever it is, and we reach either an impasse or we come up with some kind of compromise, and we just say, okay, that is what it is. And then we're moving forward, you know? But it's really important to have those like people that you can find a safe space in, and you feel like, okay, if I go off the rails, and like I become completely unhinged, which I've definitely been known to do multiple times because I am just, as Jeff calls me, delightfully unhinged. I'm in a good space. Like, then the people that I'm talking to, they like me more because like I have that side of me, and they don't like me. Yes. Like, one of my main criteria for a friendship is like when I do something weird, people go, that's Juliana. She's crazy, and we keep her around. Like just to like laugh at what I'm doing and be like, we like that. That's kind of it. And that's like all I want is people to not be judgmental and just to be like, that was funny, and me to be like, it was funny. And that's like kind of it. Like, it doesn't have to be more complicated than that, but it's just that like underlying theme of being not judgmental and just being able to feel accepted as you are.
That is good, but I'm telling you from this segment, one of the things that stuck out is, and I think a lot of people get trapped here, that one person can't fulfill every need. And that is, and I'm telling you, like, I'm in the latter part of 30s, and I'm just truly like being okay and understanding that, like, okay, this is gonna be somebody like, okay, we like to talk about fashion a little bit, but that's as far as you can go, baby. You can't go nowhere else. You know, that's our relationship. Or, you know, this is somebody that wants to talk about business. This is someone that's going to want to talk about spirituality, and being okay and having those boundaries, and stop forcing people into all these, you know, different places. Now, you're fortunate if you do have someone that can go multiple places with you, but that's not always going to be the case. So for me, my friendship list is very colorful because there are certain people I'm going to gravitate to, for a certain thing. And I'm not expecting them to, you know, come out and hang out and, you know, go on a trip or something like that. But I know that if I call them with this, it's going to be that. So I always tell my, like, I'm the type of person, especially at this stage, like I have to have, if I'm having lunch with a friend, it's just going to be with that friend. I said, if I was to bring the people that I considered friends, and, oh, you guys are going to come and celebrate my birthday, I said, oh, no, it wouldn't work. I said, it would not work. I don't, it's so diverse and different things. It's not a melting, I'm kind of like not a melting pot woman. I got all these different things. So I was like, why don't you ever have just like a party? I'm like, wait, huh?
You guys are all like different niches of my life.
Oh, no. I said it would be very tough for a person like me to have something like that, and it be a place where my friends are comfortable and seen and all, because it's just so many different dynamics. Not saying that, you know, it can't happen, but I know that it would be a challenge.
It sounds like you're someone like me too, who likes to give like personal attention to everyone if you can, and like make sure everyone is okay. I know in like situations like that, I feel overwhelmed because like especially if I'm the one in charge of coordinating it, like I want to make sure everyone feels seen and like like comfortable and accepted. Like again, I'm not married, but I've been to like a fair few number of weddings, some of which I feel like were inclusive spaces, some of which I feel like we're not. But like I was just thinking, like, if at these weddings, like if I was in charge of this, I would feel like a sense of like responsibility for like everyone's like enjoyment there at the party. And I'm like, this is why if I ever get married, I'm eloping, because like I just can't mentally deal with that.
No, I feel you, because you're gonna have people that just kind of sit over here scrolling along. These people, like 3 or 4 people talking here and different things. And maybe for us that really do care, maybe we probably shouldn't care as much. I don't know. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just telling you the facts. But I don't know. But for me, and that is like when I am with these people, they get that very intimate time, and like, you know, we talk about it, and I'm like, well, don't overwhelm me now. Like, we have a good hour conversation. Don't call me for like a month. But I'm just kidding. But
well, that's an adult friendship right there, though. Like being able to see someone and be like, I'll see you guys in like 3 weeks, because like I have an adult schedule, and like you got to be able to like spend time with people. Or like maybe seeing them like once or twice a year. Like that's still like my best friend lives. We don't live together, and like I see Jeff like twice a year. We'll spend like a week together twice a year, and we'll talk constantly over like voice messages and things like that. But like I don't get to see them that often. But it's still that like that connection is still just as important as the people, even sometimes more important than the people you get to see day to day. So that's being an adult.
No, I mean, I'm telling you, I love it, because even like some of the people that you see like every day, or the relationships every day, you know, those are kind of the most draining ones. But then when you get to somebody you don't see for a while, it's the most.
It's so nice.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's really, really refreshing. And people
Yeah.
know, like, I'm not the everyday friend. Like, I don't want to talk on the phone every day. We don't
Yeah.
have to go out to brunch, 2-3 times a month. Like, for one, I'm crazy busy. Like, I got a lot
Same.
going
Yeah.
on. I got
Yeah.
a homeschool child. I got elderly grandparents. I got
Yep.
pockets. I got to be. There's a lot of different things. And I'm not saying that me spending time with you is not important, but I would rather spend more intentional time with you and not time. It's like, oh, I'm just checking a box and saying that
Yeah.
we've seen each other. That's not
Yeah.
going to work for me in this season.
Same.
So,
Yeah.
and therefore, and sometimes I do feel a little bit guilty, just to be completely honest with you, because I know that some of my friends, that is their friendship language. They would prefer
frequency.
They would prefer frequency. And I always
Mhm.
tell them, I'm like, the last time you talked to anybody else around you, and it was that of a conversation, because I have to toot my own horn. I say, you're not getting this nowhere. This is magic. You're not getting this magic anywhere else. And this is not no cockiness. This is not cockiness or anything, but you're not getting this magic nowhere. So I don't have to talk to you every single day or go to the brunch or show up at the trips. But that when I do show up in that thing, you're going to get an honest face. You're going to get true love. And you're never going to even have to question whether or not I'm truly there for you or in your corner. You would never have to question that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, like, again, I feel like that's being being a responsible and like honest with yourself adult in friendships is just like being able to show up like when you can and also how you can and in your best way possible in those situations. And also like granting other people like grace when they're like, oh, I have to cancel, or and like being like, yep, that's fine. We're still like, I know with like all my best friends, like if I have to cancel on them, they're like, that's okay, Juliana. No hard feelings. We'll see you next time. Like there's no like hatred. There's no like, oh, she canceled on us. There's no like back talk. It's just like, yep, we'll see you next time. Like there's no negative feelings.
Yeah,
and
because
that's really
life
important
happens,
too.
right?
Yeah,
life happens, things change. And that's another thing, because especially amongst, many women friend groups, once you have that one cancellation, they're like, oh, you
yeah.
I'm
leaving too.
Yeah, you know it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because I know from somebody who you had a lot of unexpected pivots. That's all I say. I'm just gonna term it as that. This is the easiest thing that comes to my brain. You have a lot of unexpected pivots, okay?
Yeah.
And a lot of women watch this show and they have unexpected pivots, Juliana. And it just kind of hinges back to kind of a couple segments when we talk about this, and they kind of get stuck there because this pivot may just be too short of a pivot. And I don't know what to do. I want you to speak to someone that's in that space, because I like to give some real practical, like on the ground stuff that someone can really walk away from. If they've hit an unexpected pivot, give us some words to say to them, maybe some pointers to maybe help them progress along the journey.
Ooh, okay. So I have like a lot of like things that I call Juliana-isms, which are like weird things that I say. Some of them are like actual like mantras that have been like coined from other people. Some of them are just weird things I say to myself. So the first one I'm going to say is what we mentioned earlier, which is manage the moment. For the most part, you have the skills you need to manage those micro moments in between like where you are and where you need to go. So managing, because that's the only thing you can do, like managing the moment that's in front of you. Sometimes you just have to start small and then work out bigger. And then like also telling yourself like, okay, I've done harder things than this. I can do this. I always like to keep a few like, I'm going to say bad days in my pocket to remind myself that I have done like really challenging things. And they can be like days that started out bad and like ended good, or like I had like a bad race or something and something happened, or like my colon resection. I usually, because that was an emergency colon resection, I ended up in the hospital overnight with my colon tied in a knot, not anticipated. So like being able to navigate that and being like, Juliana, you've been through this before, you can do it again. And you have more skills in your toolbox right now. So like, if anything, you're better equipped to take care of a situation like this than you were in the past, when you already know that you've done that before. So kind of having that self-talk of like, you can do this, you've done it before. And then also realizing when you've reached the point where you can't do anything else in that specific situation, which we will throw in another Juliana-ism, which is chuck it in the fuck it bucket, which is just one that I have made up, which I find is fun to say. You know, it flows off the tongue nicely, which pretty much just means sometimes you just got to do it. Like sometimes you got to chuck it in the fuck it bucket and just be like, fuck it, I'm going to go do it. Because sometimes there's not really, like, you're going to be in a worse spot by just sitting there and marinating on whatever you're trying to do than if you just like trying is half the battle. When we say like the running community, like getting out the door is literally half the battle. Like if you don't want to go for a run, putting your shoes on and like taking those first couple of steps out the door, you've already done 75% of the work right there. Because once you get outside and you get moving, you're going to be fine. You're largely going to be fine. Like it's like 2% of the time you're not going to be okay, but like 98% of the time you're going to be completely fine. But it's just that like kicking yourself over the edge of the threshold that you just need to do that. And that's the hardest part. And that is where we chuck it in the fuck it bucket. And we say, fuck it, I'm going, goodbye, I'll see you later.
I'm here for it. Like, no, seriously, you really just have to do it. And yeah. It feels good to be on this wave because it's something I have to tell myself all the time, Juliana, because people are like, you know, you always see me to go. And I'm like, I literally just have to do it. I don't know what you perceive from the action that I don't know what your perception is
on the outside.
And to be honest, that's really not my kind of care or concern, because you have no idea how hard it is to keep all the things I have to go through mentally to keep the train running. I mean, you are seeing the results of it, and then you're sitting here like, oh, thinking that there's some magical thing that I'm doing behind here. There's some potion. Oh, no. The same mental struggles that you have, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do it. I'm having those same ones, but it is that ability to say no. You just feel it.
Yep.
You can do it.
Yep. Yeah, no, I honestly, like, I feel like you mentioned about like the mental fortitude and stuff earlier, and just like kind of like the dedication to whatever your craft is. Like, this is like the perfect like accoutrement to that, is just like being dedicated to something in a way where you're like, yep, this is what I want. And just knowing for a fact that like this is either a thing or a vibe or a feeling or a goal that you have for yourself. And then just being like, I'm going to do it, and cutting off that, like, which is hard sometimes, like cutting off that hesitation, just like kind of, this is where my ADHD kind of comes in handy, just like bypassing the impulse control of saying no and just being like, nope. And just like literally chucking yourself off the edge of a cliff metaphorically and just doing it. Because again, that's once you're out of the plane and you're skydiving, you're having a nice time for the most part.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So, for those of you, because to go back and reframe it, because we asked Juliana about someone that, you know, could be in a strong pivot in their life and what to do. And then she went through those practical steps. And here's the thing about it. As much as Juliana and I want to, you know, push you up off the sofa, whatever it is,
you got to do it yourself.
Sometimes, I see some people that's so great. They got just so many talents and just so many different things. I'm like, girl, if I had that, I'll be doing this with it. I just be wanting to shake them so hard. But even with that shaking, there's something internal that really has to happen in you, and you have to stand on that. So thank you for that, Juliana. I really appreciate it. If to have someone who understands that line of thinking, who be pushing themselves, trying to do 50 miles now. Now I ain't got that level of.
It's a different again.
I know
it's a different level of delusion.
Fun, but I know.
I feel like everyone has their 50-mile race that they're running. It's just that mine is like a physical foot race, and everyone else has like their big goal that's what it is. And I don't treat anyone else's goals any differently.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's definitely a great way to put that into perspective, because you may not actually be running a physical 50-mile run, but in the game of life, right?
Yeah, you have your version of it.
Yeah, we all have our share at 50 miles. And then there are some women, of course, that will probably see this. They've been past podcast guests. And, you know, I really hope that you see this and put this in your toolkit of knowledge to really do that and look at this as really, I always say, you know, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And to get to that ultimate place, it's going to take, to win the war. They say you have to win all these small battles, and the small battles really look like every day saying yes when you really want to say no.
Yeah,
when you're
showing
tired,
up.
you're in pain, and that is where that is where the tinklings and the inner workings of that fortitude we talked about is really built. Yeah. And Juliana, let's talk about the podcast briefly. I know you've already mentioned it, but I never leave without having my guests give a clean segment for all of their connection points. Also, to where we can find the podcast so that we can, of course, put this in description boxes, and then we have a clear shot to contact Juliana. So over to you for podcast and then all of your connection points.
Yeah. So my podcast again is called RUNNAH, RUNNAH, because that's how you say it in Massachusetts with a good old Boston accent. RUNNAH. It's wicked sick. But that is a podcast that is largely about running on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and beyond. That is our tagline. We would love to welcome you into your favorite local running community. And I interview people and also do some like running shoe and gear reviews, and also share my experience as a runner with chronic illness, and try to just make people feel seen and make sure you feel like you are not alone. And that's kind of like the general through line. So if you're interested in hearing people's personal stories, their struggles, their triumphs, and also just how they're getting through the day and just based around running, this is kind of for you. I try to keep it as upbeat and positive as I can. I'm a generally optimistic human, so you can look forward to that and my quirky sense of humor and my ability to edit videos. I've started editing videos the last year or so because this channel is about a year old. So that is over on YouTube at RUNNAH. And you can find us on Instagram and on TikTok at RUNNAH. And then if you want to get in contact with me, the best way is probably on Instagram. You can check out the things that I'm up to. Maybe if you're interested in following some of my chronic illness journey stuff and my running stuff, that is Juliana, like grape jelly _runs. And that would probably just be like the best general contact point for me. I'm on there pretty often. I do social media management now as part of my jobs that I work. So I'm on the apps very constantly, and I will see a message if you send it to me. So that would be the best way. So RUNNAH, the podcast, RUNNAH, and then Juliana, like grape jelly _runs. And that would be the best ways to reconnect with me if you would like to do so.
Thank you for that, Juliana. Now, this is the part in our show we cue over to our guests for final thoughts. I asked them to give us some great parting words for the space that we shared, and really something that captures the essence of Juliana. Post your final thoughts. I'll be over to close the show. So give us some powerful words, Juliana, and we'll be out of here.
Okay. My favorite way to end a show is to do two things. One, remind you that it takes the same amount of energy as it does to be mean, as it does to be nice. So why not choose to be nice today? Because you'll get something back positive in return. And also that I'm very proud of each and every one of you, and just to keep on going, and you're doing great.
I love that. So let's keep that energy high and ensure that we're using the same amount of energy to be kind. And I'm telling you guys, if you have not watched this podcast and you may watch it for the first time, that is really an act of that in practice. It's just so much easier to come in here and listen. For me personally to evolve, and also to extend that other person a listening ear, because we have no idea what somebody else is walking, in their shoes. But of course, we have come to the end of another amazing episode. And let me tell you guys, I know when you see these few episodes, you're going to be like, Shanasia, what's going on? I have not been a good steward of time. I have held this lady for 57 minutes, and I told her 30. The 30 minutes.
That's okay.
I don't come in and be like, I'm going to just take your time. I don't do that. But we really have good conversation here. And that's just sometimes how the show
I'm
goes.
the person who leaves I say I'm going to leave a short voice message, and I leave a 20-minute voice message, and that's a short voice message. So this is quite on theme, I'm not surprised.
So I'm just saying, that's just how it went. And I tell you guys, miraculous things happen when you let your voice shine. And like the old folks say in church, I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And I'll be back with another amazing woman here on the Her Voice Shines podcast in no time. Until then, I love you, and we're out.